When you are creating PDFs, you can actually use some conversion tools that are built right into the authoring application. So for example, with Microsoft Office tools, you can use the PDFMaker, which also works with AutoCAD and Lotus Notes. There are some other tools for exporting. For example, InDesign has a command for export, and Illustrator has a feature to save as a Adobe file. And so these different tools give you more flexibility. And when you export, you're able to bring in features that aren't going to be set up in a print. So for example, bookmarks and links for navigation purposes, or tags for accessibility purposes. So let's get started with exporting. We'll explore it first through Word, and then we'll kind of work our way through some different common Microsoft products. So I'm here in Word, and I have the Acrobat tab opened, and this is going to give me lots of options for creating PDFs. Now this Acrobat tab on the ribbon is open because I have Acrobat installed on my system, either standard or pro, and it's been enabled. This add-in has been enabled. Now just a little tip and trick, because it's possible that you're missing that feature. So if you go to File and you go to Options, and it will be a little bit different if you're in Word 2007 or if you're in a legacy version, but essentially you're looking for your add-ins, and they're usually associated with your options. And in your add-ins we have here the Acrobat PDFMaker, and it is turned on, but if it were grayed out, I could manage this, and I'd have to see where it's stored, and then I could click on Go and make sure that it's checked, and this is going to allow me to have access to that tool. I'm going to go ahead and cancel everything because I want this to be available. Okay, so I have some options for creating a PDF. I can simply click Create PDF, and I'm just going to call this 2 so I know which one it is. And it's creating a PDF, and it's actually going very quickly, and it instantly opens it up, and I can see it here in PDF. And some of the features that show up is that I've got some bookmarks already established, and as I scroll down a little bit here, the table of contents is actually converted into links already, because these are features that were built in Word and have been carried over when I export them. And I'm noticing it has quite a few different bookmarks as well. And then let's go back in here to Word, and when we look at Acrobat, let's take a closer look at these preferences. When we use preferences, I'm noticing that it's creating bookmarks and links. So any of those things that might have been set up, it's building it. And the bookmarks is actually pulling from, bookmark here, some styles. And so is it using heading styles? These are very common in a Word environment, using headings 1 through 9. Or perhaps we're using our own custom styles, and we can define them as well. And then any links that I might have had, that was from the table of contents or any other types of links. And it's also making this document accessible. If there were tags set up in the document, they would also be pushed over, and that can be turned into an accessible document for people with screen readers. I'm going to click on Close. Now alternatively, if I had used my print command and I simply do a print option, I'm going to get a very similar result. However, the navigation features aren't going to be available. So let me take a closer look in here. This is a document that I'd done previously, and it was printed to PDF, and I take a look, and there are no bookmarks. And if I scroll through, there are no options here to link. So those information was ignored in the conversion process because it wouldn't be necessary for print. Whereas when I use my tools here, I can definitely bring them over. Now, this particular document actually takes advantage of styles, and so I'm going to use that feature just to my advantage to create some bookmarks that are even more calibrated to the file I'm working with. And as I open up here my styles panel and I click on Valuing Human Resources, I can see that it's using a style called SBT heading. And if I scroll down here, I can see that that's also using the same style, and then we have the one called SBT subheading. So these styles are being used consistently throughout the document, and we're going to use that to our advantage. Let's go back here to Acrobat, Preferences, and click on Bookmarks. And instead of using the default bookmarks, I'm going to specify specifically heading and subheading. And the subheading, actually, I want to be a nested bookmark. So it's going to show up in that structure. And I'll go ahead and click on OK. And I'm going to create the PDF and make sure it's in the right folder. I'll just add a 3 to that to help me keep track of which one this is. And you can see how it's building that information. And you might even notice some of the settings. If I take a closer look, I can see that it did create those bookmarks, but they're actually nested, where the first version that we didn't have the bookmarks nested, so I'd have to do some manual changes. I'll go ahead and close that file, and it takes me back into Word. I'm actually going to close Word here. I'll close this file too. And I want to show you something when I'm opening up my files, that it's a good idea. Notice that Word is completely closed here, and I'm going to go to another file that is using Word. We're going to, here we go. Here's a file that uses Word. I'll bring that, open it up. And when I take a closer look at Acrobat, click on Preferences and Bookmarks, I'm noticing that those settings are still in place. Even though I don't even have the styles in list, you can see how the settings that I made have changed even after Word has been closed. So it is a good idea as when you're working with Acrobat to periodically go in and open it up and choose Restore Settings, just so that you're not creating a file with any of those settings that you might not have turned off. In fact, you might have even done something where you picked a different conversion tool, and that would get remembered by Word. So just periodically, good best practice to just check those preferences and make sure that they're restored to default, or at least restored to what you want it to be. Okay. Now, in addition to Word, you can also use other tools for creating PDFs. I'm going to go here to Excel. And with Excel, I can either create a PDF by using my print option, or I can very quickly use my option for Acrobat. And you can see there are different options. I could even quickly move it to a PDF as an attachment, or make it part of that send process. When I take a look at preferences, it's similar to what Word had with the bookmarks and the links and the tags, and there's a few other options available as well. And one thing you should be aware of with Excel and PDFs is that the print options are definitely being pulled over. And so if I were to create this PDF here, and I have all my options set up, I'll go ahead and convert to PDF, and I'll just give this a number. And it's building that PDF for me. Because I did not set up the print for this Excel file ahead of time, I'm getting a very awkward looking PDF. And this would be the equivalent of if I had printed this Excel file to paper. And to alleviate that, it is a good idea before you create PDFs from Excel, whether you're using the print or the PDFMaker, is that you do want to create some print settings. And so here's another file that's been opened up, and I had already gone in and made some changes to the print area and the backgrounds and set up some headers and footers and did just some basic cleanup. And so if I were taking a look at the print preview, I can get some options when I'm printing it out. So then when I create my PDF, and again, I could add multiple files here. There we go. So I can print all those. What's going to happen is that it's going to create a PDF that matches the print settings I had already established. So it looks just much cleaner. So that's something to be aware of when you're working with Excel files. Okay, let's start with Outlook. This is a great feature with Outlook. And now one thing you should be aware of is specifically if you're using Outlook version 2010 and the Outlook 64-bit, it is possible that this PDF ribbon won't be there, or the tab on the ribbon won't be there. So if that's the case, do remember that you can access those add-ins through Options and Add-ins and turn it on. It's also possible that if you're using the Acrobat, that ribbon isn't available, and that's because there is an add-in that supports the 64-bit version of Microsoft Office. When I click on my Help menu in Acrobat and take a look at About, I can see this is version 10, which is X, And if that's the case and you're having some issues, you may want to download the free version 10.1. It's essentially a patch that gives you some more options for working with your Outlook and your Office 2010 environment. But let's take a closer look. I'm back here in Outlook, and I have some great tools for creating some archives, and I can actually select a specific message, or I'm going to do a whole folder in there, create a new PDF. And I'm going to go ahead and choose my entire inbox, including that subfolder, and I'll just call that inbox 2. I'll go ahead and save that in there. And you can see it's building up. As it's building up, I just want to point out that you could do a specific message. There also are some conversion settings in here, and you could even create an archive tool or archive feature so that automatically these PDFs are going to be being created for you. And when they're set up as PDF, you get to use all the search capabilities. It's also going to compress it, and then you can store it offline. Just gives you a lot more options. It also stores the file in a format that protects properties like who sent it and when, so you know the files aren't going to be tampered with, and that's another way of preserving the credibility of those files as well. So it's taking just a little bit of time to build that, but I can tell now that it's set up and it's blinking at me saying close, so I'll go ahead and close that. And it is opening it up in a format that resembles more of a portfolio or a package, as I'm seeing these files, and I can actually click on a file and open it up. I'm in that read mode, and I can move through the files, etc. If I had a long document, I could actually scroll through it. And I also have a few other options for exploring it. I can show it with folders. That's going to preserve my folder structure, and I can open up the folder and see what's involved, or go back to see everything in there. I got some options for searching as well. I can see attachments. So it's just a very rich tool for working with Outlook files. I'll go ahead and close that out. And again, when I'm looking with this, I could append existing files. So later on, I could continue to create that PDF. I could just add next month's or next quarter's emails as the process continues. All right, well, let's take a look at one more option. We'll go here to PowerPoint. When you work with PowerPoint, there's some settings that you might want to take advantage of, especially with PowerPoint, since it's primarily going to be viewed instead of printed. I can take advantage of these different features with PDF. And again, I got my bookmarks and my links and my tags. Also multimedia, so if I had some different multimedia elements, I could bring them in. It's going to preserve slide transitions and some of those animation features, be handy. You'll notice that I have some options to deal with hidden slides and speaker notes as well. And by default, those are all turned off. I'm going to go ahead and OK that. When I click Create PDF, notice that Acrobat actually recognizes that there are speaker notes. Here are some examples of that. And it's actually prompting me, would you like to use those features? And I think I will. So I'll go ahead and click on yes, and so it's going to build this PDF for me. And there we go. And the speaker notes are represented as these different annotation symbols. You can see there in the corner. And close that out. And again, the PDFMaker is a tool that you're going to have available in your Office environment, your Office tools. And there's going to be a little bit of variance depending on the tool you have opened. But for the most part, you're getting some great options for converting. Now, Adobe products also have some conversion settings. They're just not called the PDFMaker. So InDesign has some tools for export, and Adobe has options called Save As. Adobe is actually very robust, because when you save as, you can save it as a PDF, or you can actually, when you save it as Illustrator, it's going to maintain the PDF settings in here. Oops, I think really reback that. I actually picked the wrong option. So I'm go back in here and I'll choose File, Save As. Make sure we choose Adobe Illustrator. There we go. And then we'll click on Save. Let's give it a new name, 2. And now you can see that it's going to create a PDF compatible file. So Illustrator has some nice options when it works with conversion, and just being aware that sometimes the export features have a different name than PDFMaker because it's a different authoring application that you're working with. But for the most part, when you're using the PDFMaker or some other type of export command, you're able to capture information that wouldn't necessarily go over in print, like bookmarks and accessibility and some other features that might be helpful for that authoring program that could also be helpful in the PDF.